Welcome to the Shining Bright Lotus Meditation Society podcast. For more information, go to shiningbrightlotus.org.
Hopefully I won't disappoint. Let's jump in and see what happens this evening. I'm sitting in a little corner of what used to be my Zendo here. It's a beautiful little Zendo. Some people may remember it. It has become a bedroom. When you have kids, rooms in your house start to take on other meanings. So a Dharma talk from the bedroom Zendo. So I'm gonna kind of start off. I'm here to cover, as he says, why are you here? Which is actually chapter 2 in the book, The Heart of Zen, by Kogan Keith Martin Smith. But Jun Po's essentially his Mondo Zen in book form. And I'm just gonna kind of graze through chapter 1, which is the diving in chapter, just to set it up a little bit. And it kind of starts out saying, hey, from what I understand, this whole Zen thing takes about 20 years. Is this true, Jun Po? And he's like, yeah, traditionally, that's what they've found. You got to sit for about 2 decades and stare at a wall and listen to the old traditional teachings, and then maybe you'll finally crack through. But we can do it faster now, was what Jun Po was sharing with everyone. He says we've got a lot more technology now. We have a much better understanding of the human mind and the human organism and so forth. So let's keep the baby. Let's keep the Dharma teachings, and let's throw out the old, outdated cultural bathwater. But he does go right back into pointing out that Buddha taught it. If you follow my technology, eightfold path, you can awaken. And number 1 on the eightfold path was right or correct view or correct understanding. And it's not about ours is the right way, somebody else's is the wrong way. It's not right in that sense. It's a correct view. Let's make sure we're pointing in the right direction and we're looking and we understand what we're doing here. So that hasn't changed. That's part of the baby. This is, we need to have a correct understanding as we set out on this path. Otherwise, we're just wandering in the darkness, continuing on and on and on and on. And even with correct view and right understanding, I've found myself oftentimes going in the wrong direction or challenging some of the traditional teachings. And I'm just going to make a mention to somebody else who I also listen to a lot. Everybody hears me these days talking about Rupert Spira, and he's had a huge impact on me and has really helped a lot of what I've learned from Jun Po make a lot more sense. And specifically around this whole correct view thing. And I'm finally understanding what Jun Po, and I started reading through the book and I was like, oh my God, Jun Po's saying it all right here. And what he's saying, this whole no self thing, this whole, the first koan, right? That Edo put him into. Does a dog have Buddha nature? No, no. And everybody's screaming no, and Jun Po's and screaming no. Oh my goodness. I didn't quite get it until it dawned on me listening to Rupert. Does a human have Buddha nature? No. And I was like, no, of course a human has Buddha nature. That's it. Oh, goodness sakes. So all I'm going to point at as far as correct view, because I'm going to get back to the Heart of Zen book, is humans are not conscious. The human body is not conscious. Human beings are not aware. Awareness is aware. Get over yourself. Awareness is before you. Humans do not have consciousness. Consciousness has human beings. Ah, isn't that interesting? That's just part of correct view. In any case, back to Jun Po and the Heart of Zen, he sat there screaming, no, moo, right? Until it finally cracked for him. On page 13 in this book, he got the no, but it really hit him when he hit the KNOW, which just happens to be a play on words. Well, how convenient that knowing is the same sound, the same word in our language as no. And Jun Po in the quote, I'm going to go over to my note here. Know a deeper consciousness in your mind than where the question itself arises. So it's right. Is there an awareness deeper than the mind in which the question arises? Yes, consciousness itself, awareness itself is before you. It's before your mind. We've got this strange view in the world that there's this structure, all this stuff called matter, and it's a rock and it's a planet and it's spinning, and then finally evolution started and organisms got more and more complex, and then finally we showed up and this brain evolved, and in the brain a mind, and in that mind the spark of consciousness. Wrong. Backwards. Consciousness. Before the Big Bang, before Abraham, before anything, I am. And then, consciousness starts playing games. The mind. And then the mind dreams a body. And then the body, oh my God, a world. Self and other. Turn the view around. And as Jun Po said, know your original face. That's another koan. What was your original face before your mother was born? So Jun Po became Eido's first Dharma heir. And yet he found he was still expending tremendous amounts of energy, suppressing all kinds of emotional reactivity to keep it in check, even though he'd had full realization of the depth of his truth. He woke up, became a Dharma heir, and yet all this emotional reactivity, he was looking around going, man, this seems to be true of everyone else around too. There's not many people seem to be waking up and suddenly, yeah, they're great, until the shit hits the fan, until something triggers you, and then all of a sudden you're spiraling out into blah. And he said, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. We've got to find another way. And so he kept sitting with it. He had a new koan. What is it? What's it going to take? And eventually, through enough determination and practice, he saw, he really saw that the ego, the no self of the ego, it's just a bunch of conditioned habitual patterning. And he could make a different choice. And that's where he said he saw that that cracked the koan for him. Oh, it's a choice. I can make a different choice. And this is when he decided, I've got to do something about all the emotional reactivity that's still going on even after people see the truth of who they are. And if you haven't seen the truth yet of who you are, keep practicing, keep going. The depth of that wisdom is necessary, but get the proper understanding and keep looking to see the truth of who you are. And when you do, and you come home from sesshin and you're all lit up, this is great, this is great. And then a trigger hits, oh crap, where did it all go? Where did the sesshin go? Where did my enlightenment, my awakening go? Choose. So Jun Po's teaching, you can make a choice. And now that brings us to, why are you here? Apparently you're seeking something. You're a seeker. And as Jun Po said, and they put it right at the start of this chapter, never give a seeker an even break. All the old WC Fields. And again, it's humor. Humor, enjoy, laugh. You better learn to laugh because you're going to have to laugh when you don't want to. So never give a seeker an even break. And so what I would say is the reason that you're here is for the same reason Jun Po was here. Why did Jun Po show up? He was a seeker. He was looking just like all of us. Just like everybody on that lineage chant, if you've ever gone through the sutra book and done the lineage chant, none of those are not deities. Those are not amazing individuals. Those are human beings just like you and me. All seekers, seekers, seekers on the path. So why are you here? Dare I say you did not show up to actually hear me talk tonight. I certainly hope you didn't just show up to hear me talk tonight because I think you're going to be disappointed. You're seeking something. That's why you're here. And I'll go one step further. My guess is what you're seeking is ultimately happiness. Because I've never known a person who, when they find happiness, starts looking for something else. I think it's fundamentally peace and happiness, which I think are actually the same. There was some, I can't remember who, but said that happiness is peace in motion and peace is happiness at rest. They're the exact same thing. So peace and happiness, this is what we seek. And yet we live longer than today. This is from the Heart of Zen. We live longer than we have ever really before. We've got more stuff, more creature comforts, certainly those of us on this call. Yes, there's still a lot of suffering and difficulty and problem areas in the world. I'm not speaking of that. I'm speaking of the privilege, those of us who have the time to sit down and look and come seeking spiritual awakening. We've got everything. Our world, we have so much. And yet depression, medication, unhappiness has never been greater in our world. It's staggering how these numbers are increasing just statistically in the most affluent places on earth. That's where the unhappiness and the depression and the medication is on the rise. Not out in the hills of the Himalayas or in the Chilean Andes. Right here where we've got all the abundance. And yet we've got all the depression and all the sadness so what's going on? And what we're seeking, what Jun Po found was that his awakening there was a happiness, there was an incredible joy that came with it. But then with the when triggered, the spiraling out into the emotionality, what he discovered was that he had really just found an incredible relative happiness. It was still a relative happiness. And he said, this isn't good enough. I want true and lasting happiness. I want peace of mind. I want a happiness that doesn't come and go. a happiness that includes happiness and unhappiness, a peace that includes good and bad, right and wrong, that includes all duality and non-duality. This is what we're truly seeking, an absolute happiness. Because even with deep relative happiness, we're still efforting so much to get rid of those negative emotions. And he focused on anger, shame, disconnection, but envy, jealousy, any of the so-called negative emotions. We're still, the traditional Zen approach is still trying to get rid of that, to get beyond that, to get away from that. And what he realized when he recognized the depth of true, absolute peace and happiness was that you had to transcend and transform all of these negative emotions and include them. There's no getting away from them. There's no destroying them. There is no transcending them unless you transcend and include them. And then find the depth to make different choices when they arise, when they show up, instead of just habitually running through a reactive habitual pattern. Instead, choosing, what can I do differently? Because it's not just about becoming a doormat and getting steamrolled and by your emo, oh, well, I'm not going to react. Well, something might need your action. But what kind of an action can you take that's helpful, that doesn't add more karma into the mix? What can I do? And the first thing might be, can I do anything? Maybe not. Maybe the best action, if you realize truly there is nothing I can do, is don't do. Rather than, oh, I'm gonna do something. Ah! How is that helping, right? So why are we here? We're here to continue to learn from what Jun Po taught us. So gifted, so blessed to have the writings, this book, teachers who can continue to pass along what Jun Po shared with us, and even more importantly, to bring in true, authentic, good, clear other teachings and understandings and interweave them. As Jun Po would say, not just another book on the coffee table. He didn't want, oh yeah, go read something. Okay, now this isn't work. No. Bring it together. Oh yes. Embellish the teach, continue to grow. And Ekai is doing an incredible job. I so appreciate what he's bringing to Shining Bright Lotus with a lot more of the meditation instructions and the other people about emotional understandings and so forth, and the books and the teachings and the guided meditations. Because Jun Po did a lot for us, but there were some shortcomings. I never got a lot of meditation instructions with Jun Po. That was all right. I was okay with the whole dog training. I'm a dog. Sit down, shut up, don't move. Ding, and it's been good, but Jun Po never told us to stop there. He said, yes, you've got a good understanding. You understand now. Share this. And he would look at the things that Doshin would bring, and Ekai would bring, and Fujin would bring, and everyone, oh yes, and he'd look and he'd bring, oh yes, the psychologies behind it. Oh, this was a beautiful teaching, wonderful. So that's what we're wanting to do too for the seekers here. We're going to serve you a great big smorgasbord, because it's really essential, I think, that every teaching isn't going to reach every person. We're all the same at a deep enough depth, but we've got so many different flavors and so many different minds. At the mind level, there's so much to disagree about and so many different ways of understanding, interpreting, that it's vitally important that you find a teacher who speaks with words that you can understand. This is why I brought up Rupert Spira. He is just cracking my mind open to exactly what Junpo taught me. And the things that Ekai is bringing with the guided meditations and the books on emotional maturity and so forth. Check them all out. Check out the different teachers who are going to be sharing with you over this whole practice period. Come to the other events that we put on. Keep your ear finely tuned and open. Keep that seeking mind on. And you'll know when someone throws the thing, oh, that's, yes. That's a teaching. I understand now. I see something that I didn't hear over here when it was said this way, but I hear it when I see it this way. So that's really what we're trying to do, is round it out and be true to the teaching that Junpo gave us, but not stop there. Let me take another moment and just glance. I'm not real big on preparing for talks, but I did prepare for I'm funny. When I talk, I mostly just kind of want to go stream of consciousness, but the talk really is, why are you here in the heart of Zen? So I can't just kind of go off on my Engo path. I kind of should stay to the point of the topic. So I jotted down a few notes. So I'm gonna take a glance at those a little bit too, just to kind of keep me on the tracks. I can be a bit of a cyclone or a Tasmanian devil. I'll spiral all over the place, or spira all over the place. Let me see if I've missed anything. I don't think so much, but something was telling me that it was a piece that I read right at the very end of the first or the second chapter. Get out my reading glasses too, because I'm getting old. Yeah. And Kogan was asking Junpo, his seeker. Junpo's been explaining about, seeking and what we're looking for. And he says, and how do we get there? And Junpo says, not there, Baba. It's closer to you than your own face. You get here by questioning everything, changing your mind, practicing meditation correctly, and opening your heart. And here's the funny thing that happens to you on the way. When your insight is deep enough, you'll discover the truth of compassion for yourself and seek happiness for others and no longer just for you. And that's when things get really interesting. Especially for a recovering narcissist, I imagine, Kogan asked him. Junpo just laughed and said, you have no idea. So Yeah, it's closer to you than your own face. It's before you. It truly is. And what really touches me, see, I always share my wisdom. I get the wisdom understanding, but I'm right here with Jun Po. Man, where is the promised compassion? Where is that? This is my challenge. It's and yet I'm starting to feel it because my koan right now is open my heart. Open my heart. And as I'm doing it, I'm seeing it. Yeah, it seeking compassion and happiness for others. And when I thought of that earlier today, getting ready for this, I realized too, be careful if you think that, as I call it, the kumbaya tree hugging. And don't get me wrong, I'm a kumbaya and a tree hugger. I love it. But it's not idiot compassion. It's not this, oh, I'm so loving and compassion. When you look at the ones that trigger you, is it the Trumpers? Is it the Black Lives Matter people? Who is it that triggers you? Can you look at them and open your heart? Do you see the anger? Do you see the screaming, the anger on the faces of the people? What's beneath anger? Fear and sadness, and ultimately deep caring. These angry people care. When we start to see that, dare I say, you're starting to see the absolute happiness that includes good and bad, right and wrong, that includes it all, is before it all. So, and we'll get into all of that. So please come back for all of our future Monday talks, which are still coming, because, that's a touch at the emotional koans and what's underneath of all of it. But I'm really here just to talk about, why are you here? Because you're seeking this teaching. And ultimately, you're seeking just the depth of true peace and happiness, which, dare I say, is your true nature. Before all of it, if you go into the pure conscious witnessing awareness, that is peace and happiness that you seek. So I think I'll stop there and we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by the generous contributions of donors to the Shining Bright Lotus Meditation Society. If you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, please consider a contribution. Go to shiningbrightlotus.org.